Hello, my name is Anna, and I love trying all kinds of recipes. So today I'm trying 3 Amish style recipes from this book, Raber's Country Kitchen. Last month, I was lucky enough to get to meet up with 2 of my friends and fellow content creators, Jim from Jim's Kitsch Kitchen and Stephanie from Ginger Snap Kitchen. You might remember them from the taste test portion of my Great Pumpkin Cookies video. And all 3 of us decided to buy this cookbook to commemorate the occasion. In fact, they are both cooking something from this very book today on their channels, so please be sure to go visit them and see what they made. I will talk more about this book and my visit with Jim and Stephanie a little bit later. So Raber's Country Kitchen was an Amish home where people could come to dinner and the family would cook them a meal. This book was originally published in 1986. I don't believe that they still do this in their home, but I do know that there are homes in Holmes County, other Amish areas of the country where you can go to a family's home and they will cook you a meal. So I was really looking forward to trying some of these out. They seem to be tried and true recipes that a lot of people have enjoyed. I'm starting off with this pistachio salad. Instructions: do not drain pineapple and mix all together. Refrigerate. Easy to make and good too. And that's it. That's all we got. So here we go. So I am going to combine everything, and that starts with 1 package of instant pistachio pudding. Do any of you follow that Midwestern mom? Because this really makes me think this is like something she would do. And then 1 tablespoon of sugar. I don't know why this is in here, considering the other ingredients, but I'm putting it in there. It's in the recipe. 1 16-ounce can of crushed pineapple. The can I purchased was 20 ounces, so I just measured out what I needed. And of course I didn't drain it because I am not supposed to do that. So this requires an entire pint of cream. Splashing a lot. Take it down a notch. I can definitely feel this thickening up. All right. Oh yes. Here we are. It is nice and thick. So I'm gonna go ahead and add my remaining ingredients, and that is 1/2 cup of chopped nuts. I went with pecans because that is what I had. I know this is pistachio pudding. I feel like pistachios are not the right move here. I think maybe like pecans or walnuts. And then 1/2 cup of miniature marshmallows. No vegetables in this salad. Honestly, I cannot wait to talk to you about my visit with Jim and Stephanie in Amish country. It was really, really fun. And there's definitely something like this on the Amish buffet that we went to. I think we're done. So I'm gonna cover this up and put it in the refrigerator before I give it a taste. There's the fluff. I'm noticing that the green is really not coming through on the camera. It's just like a nice, pleasant sort of pastel green. Usually I take my thumbnail photos before I do the taste tests, which is why this bowl is so heapingly full. I'm not going to eat all of this right now, but I am excited to give this a taste. The texture is very kind of like halfway between fluffy and jiggly. I don't know, does it capture it? I gotta get pecan. I know there's a marshmallow right there. I have to make sure I have a complete bite here. That's very nice. I was worried it was gonna be a little too sweet, but it's not. I don't know that 1 tablespoon of sugar that went in there like does anything. The texture is lovely. Like it is just kind of like fluffy. I don't find it off-putting. Pudding once again. I love all of these flavors together. I love pineapple. All of this stuff speaks to me. I know that something like this is not for everyone, and most people would probably not consider it a salad, more of a dessert. Oh boy. They're doing some yard work out there. I think I have seen a version, hold on, there's like right by the window. There's close to the camera as they can be without coming into my house. We're gonna press on. I've seen a version of this salad that uses Cool Whip instead of like heavy cream. And I think maybe that is a version that I've had that I thought was like really, really sweet because the Cool Whip is pretty sweet. I think making this with heavy cream is smart because it does give it like a nice fluffy texture without adding a ton of extra sweetness. So I enjoy this quite a bit, and I would make it again. I would. So now I'm gonna be trying this recipe for scalloped potatoes. Did a little prep work on this one. I cubed up my potatoes ahead of time as directed in the recipe, and I cooked them in some boiling salted water just for about 8 to 10 minutes because these are gonna go in the oven. So after they were tender, I drained them and then I put them in a small casserole dish. Remember, I am gonna be cutting this recipe in half, so you would wanna use a larger dish if you are making a full recipe. Now that I have my potatoes done, it's time to make the sauce. And my sauce starts with some butter. See if I can get you in there a little bit better. Just melt that over low heat. Also, this recipe has some pretty minimal instructions to it. That is a trend in this cookbook. It just says to dice potatoes and cook until tender, let cool, and then cover with the sauce. It doesn't say how to make the sauce, so I'm gonna be making the sauce the way that I think the sauce should be made. So now that my butter is melted, I'm gonna be adding flour because I'm making a cheese sauce, folks. Whisk that in, and once that is nicely combined, I am gonna add my milk. Let that go, whisk it on up so I can feel it starting to thicken just a bit. I'm gonna go ahead and add my salt and then some pepper. Make sure that gets combined as well. Yeah, it's getting thick. I think that feels pretty good. And the last thing to do for the sauce is to add the cheese. And that is just shredded cheddar cheese. Oh yes. Oh, I'm getting enthusiastic. I'm splashing it around. I'm just very excited about scalloped potatoes. But look how yummy that looks already. It's nice and velvety. Didn't really take a very long time. So the last thing to do is to pour this sauce over my cooked potatoes. And the last thing I'm gonna do is put this in the oven and bake it for 30 minutes. So scalloped potatoes got a little nice and brown on top. You know, of course, they're not like scalloped potatoes that I've had before, but I bet they're delicious. Like, how can they not be? Dish some up here. Yeah, it's very soft. They taste good. I would make these as a side dish for any dinner, I think. I went ahead, I made sure that I salted my water pretty well when I was boiling potatoes, so there's some seasoning there. Maybe they could use just like a touch more seasoning, but if you're gonna eat them like alongside another dish that's more salty, this is like the perfect thing to complement that. No, they're lovely. It's really simple and really good. Just a simple, cheesy potato kind of side dish. I really like this. For my final recipe, I'm gonna be making this ground beef casserole because you know I love a casserole. And once again, I'm cutting this recipe in half, but I will have the full recipe in the description down below. The first thing I need to do is to brown some hamburger, just to get it started. All right, so that is cooking a little bit. And so now I need to add my onions. All right, my meat is all cooked and I've drained the fat away. So now we get to move on, adding the rest of the ingredients. And that includes some cream cheese and some milk. And I'm using cream of mushroom soup. It says use cream of chicken or cream of mushroom. Again, I am cutting this recipe in half, and often this works really well for me. If I want to cut a casserole recipe in half, I will divide the can of soup and then I will freeze the remainder. And you know, I'm making casseroles all the time for this channel, so they do get used up. And then a little bit of salt and some ketchup. I am not really used to adding ketchup to casseroles, but I have seen this done. You know, a lot of times it's like ketchup or tomato soup or something like that. Not something I grew up with, but I've made a few like this and they were really good. Just waiting for that cream cheese to melt a little bit more. So now I'm gonna place my mixture into a small casserole dish. Once again, cutting this recipe in half. So if you're gonna make a full recipe, use a bigger casserole dish. It doesn't indicate what size in the recipe, but use your best judgment. So this casserole is actually baked in kind of like a 2-phase kind of thing. So I have to bake this mixture by itself for about 10 minutes. And then I'm putting biscuits on top and baking it again. So I just got this out of the oven. And now it's time to add the biscuits and bake it again. I wanted a small container of biscuits, so I got these 5 buttermilk biscuits. I was probably supposed to get the smaller ones. It doesn't really indicate in the recipe, but it's gonna have to be fine because this is what I have. So we'll see what we can fit on top of there. Is this gonna be scary? Sometimes it is. All right, this is one of those ones where you press a spoon. They did this for biscuit scaredy cats like me, I guess. I don't know, it's still scary sometimes. Sorry, I did not mean to scream. It's just such a surprise. I've collected myself. Yeah, these are gigantic. They'll be all right. I was like maybe gonna cut them into 4ths and like sprinkle them on the top. I think this will be fine. I think I'm only gonna get 3 in there. I'll just bake the other 2 and make breakfast sandwiches or something. Beautiful. So this is gonna go back in the oven for another 15 minutes or so. It's hot, but we've got those lovely biscuits on the top. This smells incredible. How do I want to attack this? I think I'm gonna like maybe cut one of the biscuits in half. By the way, this recipe, it says it serves like 6 people when you make a full recipe. So this is kind of perfect. There's 3 biscuits for half a recipe. It just worked out really well that way. I think we'll just make like an entry point by scooping up this biscuit. This is almost like a creamy hamburger gravy. We used to eat hamburger gravy over biscuits in school, like in the cafeteria. That was like one of the things that was on the menu regularly. I don't know if I don't know if anybody else eats that, you know, in schools now. But that's kind of a cute little plate, don't you think? Smells tomatoey, smells creamy. It's very hot. That's really good. Oh, it's nice. It's like got that tomatoey tanginess to it. This is a really good, this biscuit's like a very good thing to go with it. I would love to put some like sauteed mushrooms or canned mushrooms. Let's face it, let's do canned mushrooms. Let's like stick with this casserole kind of theme. But I think mushrooms would go really good in here. I happen to love mushrooms. Oh, I like that so much. The recipe also said that you could make the hamburger part ahead of time, which is really handy. I mean, you could even make a batch of like the base of this casserole and freeze some of it for later. It did say that you want to make sure that your hamburger mixture is hot, at least for a little bit before you put the biscuits on. That's kind of why I baked it for 10 minutes before I put the topping on, because otherwise if you go in cold and then you put the biscuits on top, the biscuits are gonna get a little too brown. But yeah, this would be a really good thing to make ahead, for sure. So let's talk about my visit with Jim and Stephanie, and then we will talk about this cookbook. I've been making videos for about 2.5 years now, and I first met Jim very early on in my channel, and then shortly thereafter I met Stephanie. And when I say met, I mean I connected with them virtually. I hadn't met them in person. Jim invited me to do a collaboration, and Stephanie was also part of that collab. My chocolate butter mallow cake video, which I will link in the description down below in case you haven't watched it. It's a pretty old video at this point. But yeah, we just stayed friends for this long. And the opportunity arose that Jim was going to be in Ohio. He knew that Stephanie and I were both from Ohio and reached out to us and said, hey, do you want to come to Holmes County, to Amish country, and hang out for a couple days? And of course I wanted to. So, I mean, you know, I was a little bit nervous, but once we met up, it was like we'd known each other for years and years. I cannot tell you how great it is to have people to talk to about YouTube stuff. It's a little bit of a weird, very unique thing. My friends and family are very, very supportive, and I'm very lucky. But of course, to talk to 2 people with like a very deep understanding of making these videos and showing them to people, whether that gets a good or bad response, it's invaluable. Like, it was so fantastic. If you're unfamiliar with Holmes County in Ohio, there's a very large Amish community there. It was such a fun visit. We went shopping. We shopped for cheese. If you love cheese, this area is for you. So many different cheese shops. I'll go ahead and insert a few clips and photos of that here. We also had dinner at Der Dutchman, which you absolutely have to do. If you love like comforting home style food, go to Der Dutchman. Go hungry. You can order off the menu, but they do have a pretty impressive buffet, and that's what we opted for, so we could kind of try a lot of different things. We had breakfast at Rebecca's Bistro. If you live close to Holmes County, like, you have to check out Rebecca's Bistro. So incredibly delicious. I had the frittata, and it was the best frittata I have ever eaten. We went to an Amish home where we got to feed lots and lots of different animals, and that's where we got this cookbook. All 3 of us went ahead and picked this up. And also, we just spent a lot of time. We stayed up way too late and we were just talking and chatting, and it was the most natural, most comfortable like conversation I've had with people that I've like never met in person before. It was fantastic. If you have friends that you've kind of like found or connected to through the internet, if you feel comfortable, I really encourage you to meet some of them in person. It was wonderful. I also did do a little bit of shopping. Aside from food shopping, I did come home with several types of cheese and treats and all kinds of things. Some of those things are long gone, so I won't share them here, but I did get a few cookbooks, so I'll go ahead and share my little haul with you. First off, we have Let's Bake the Robin Hood No Sift Way. And I mean, really cute cover. Like, how could you resist? And then the back here as well. Now, I'm not sure if Robin Hood flour is still sold in the United States. I remember my grandma buying it when I was little, and she also loved buying the Robin Hood like pizza crust mix. You know, maybe it's just not available in my area of the country. I know it's available in Canada, but yeah, let me know if you can still buy Robin Hood flour where you are. This book is from 1964. Lots of recipes and some very, very cute illustrations in here. I had to have it. I think this was maybe $3. My other purchase, I bought 5 honey cookbooks. So I didn't buy these individually. They were packaged as a set, and this whole stack was $3. And the reason that I purchased them is because my grandpa was a beekeeper. And so I grew up eating lots and lots of honey. I did learn a little bit about what it takes to take care of bees, what you need to do. You know, he was the expert. I was not. I was just kind of there to learn. He was very patient with me. But I always remember having honey, especially honey toast. I ate a lot of like honey on toast when I was little. I mean, I thought I had to add these to my collection. So we have more favorite honey recipes, and it's just a really, I mean, the cover is just a beautiful color. I love those flowers. This one is from 1956. Look at that very stern lady. That is Harriet M. Grace, director. And then we have 100 honey helpings. These covers are just so cool. This one is from 1937, and you can kind of tell by the design of the cover and that lettering style. It's a very kind of like 1930s thing. It looks like these may be the same, maybe not. I don't know. They have 2 different covers, but they're both called My Favorite Honey Recipes. And just looking at the back, they do have the same recipes in them, like at least on the back. Compiled by Mrs. Walter T. Ida Kelly. So that's Ida Kelly. And then I have this little kind of like comb binding, I think it's called. So this is from the American Honey Institute. My new favorite honey recipes. Wait, wasn't that the other one was called? No, that was More Honey Recipes. This is my new favorite honey recipes. And this one is from 1947. I mean, look at these. I don't know if I can get that to focus, but there's this beautiful sort of like edging on the pages. So pretty. And I just thought it was such a steal. I got all 5 of those cookbooks for $3. Can you believe? Let's talk about Raber's Country Kitchen. This book was published in 1986. It was first published then, but they reprinted it several times. So this is the 3rd printing from 1994. And it gives the address of the Raber family home where they would serve meals to people. It was a husband and wife and their children. The husband and wife were Maudie and Andy. Unfortunately, Andy has since passed away. And then they had, looks like they had 8 children. At least when this was published, like they had 8 children. Yeah, that is, from my understanding, you know, a pretty common thing in Amish communities where they will set up their home and serve meals to people who want to have that experience. I lived closer to Holmes County for about 8 years, and it was close enough that some of the Amish folks would come and do their grocery shopping in our town. And in fact, our Walmart store actually had a place where you could hitch your horses and buggies. The recipes that I used did use some convenience items like a pudding mix and canned biscuits and that kind of thing. That is not uncommon. If you go to one of these communities, there are often a lot of like bulk food stores, and you'll find baking items and pudding mixes and seasonings. Like you'll find those in bulk. I do recommend, like if you've never been to Holmes County, there's usually, I mean, they've become pretty touristy over the years. People might have some mixed feelings about that. You know, usually there are a lot of really cool shops, a lot of really cool places to buy food and restaurants and all kinds of stuff. If you like antiquing, there are usually those kinds of stores too. So if you have one of these areas kind of near you, I'd recommend visiting if you haven't. As for the recipes that I tried in Raber's Country Kitchen, this is a little bit of a small cookbook, and there were a lot of desserts in here, let me tell you. The main dish and salad section start out the book, but they're kind of small. The rest of it is like desserts and things, and pies. Oh, the pies. There are also little like verses and poems and stories kind of interspersed throughout this book. The first recipe I opened to was the one for scalloped potatoes. You know, they're not like scalloped potatoes as I would normally know them. I think the kind of like standard scalloped potato, and not a gratin, but scalloped is like sliced raw potatoes, like thinly sliced, and you put like milk and flour and stuff on them, and then you bake them. So this one was a little bit different. You pre-cooked the potatoes a little bit, and then you made a sauce to put over them. But I like this a lot, and it doesn't take very long, which is nice. I thought this particular dish was great, and it would complement a lot of different meals. Really easy side dish to make and very delicious with just a few ingredients. Then the ground beef casserole. That one was really good too. A little different than what I have made in the past. There have been a couple of casseroles that I have tried with like a tomato cream kind of sauce or like tomato soup in there. It's not common for me, but I really liked this one. That ketchup, and it wasn't like a ton of ketchup, it did add a lot of tanginess to the casserole. It went really well with like the creaminess part of it. I think if it was just the soup and the cream cheese and stuff, it could have maybe gotten to be a little bit too much, but that ketchup like sort of cut through, gave you that nice tangy, like acidic kind of flavor that you needed, I guess. Good with the biscuits, of course. It's kind of like an all-in-one dish. I think you could also add some frozen mixed vegetables to this or whatever if you wanted to make it more of a complete meal, or you can serve some veggies on the side too. And then for the salad that I made, the pistachio salad, I took some of this to my parents, and of course, I don't know why I wasn't thinking this, but my mom told me this is Watergate salad. Of course, it is Watergate salad. So I think that the salad is known by a lot of different names. I've heard it called pistachio fluff. Maybe you have a different name for it that I don't know. But the pistachio salad that most of us would not really consider a salad, at least not by like modern terms. You know, salad, you usually think of like greens and a dressing, or maybe it's like a potato salad or a macaroni salad. This was a little bit different, but it was delightful. I really enjoyed it. The texture was so good. It was so light and fluffy, and I thought that the level of sweetness was just perfect. I love Cool Whip as much as the next person. I mean, you gotta put it on pumpkin pie, right? And I've seen this particular recipe made with Cool Whip, and that's good too, but it's very sweet. It's much sweeter than this one was. This was a nice surprise. You know, I thought it was a nice way to sort of round out the meal. I had it as more of a dessert than a salad, but it was really enjoyable, and honestly, I think I am going to make it again. It was that good. It's a keeper. All of these recipes were good, and I think they are pretty much all keepers, and they weren't very hard to make. You could also adjust the quantities of these recipes very easily if you wanted to make, you know, a double batch. Maybe you're having a lot of people over, or maybe you want to do a little bit of meal prep on that casserole. Very easy to scale up. I didn't have a hard time scaling them down either. I think these are all very versatile recipes. They have my seal of approval. I think you should definitely give them a try. Before I wrap up this video, I did want to make a little bit of an announcement. I am now on Patreon. So Patreon is a place where you can support artists and creators with like a monthly sponsorship. You get usually some bonus content. So yeah, I'm on Patreon now at the encouragement of several of my viewers. Thank you so much for giving me that little nudge so that I would actually do this. And I have one video up there right now that you can access with your membership, but I do plan to do maybe like 2 or 3 extra pieces of content, maybe some Q&A kind of things. I'm not really sure yet. If you decide to support me on a monthly basis, you will get some extra bonus things that, you know, only members have access to. So I'll leave a link in the description down below if you would like to join. I hope you liked this video. If you did, please give it a thumbs up and subscribe to my channel if you haven't already. And please go visit Jim and Stephanie on their channels to find out what they made from this cookbook. Thanks again for watching, and I'll see you in my next video. Bye.